Hello, listeners. Mallory Wilsey here, Chief Producer of the Enrollify Network, and I want to take just a moment to tell you about another show on our podcast network that I co-host called Higher Ed Pulse. Higher Ed Pulse is your weekly spotlight on the latest in higher education marketing and enrollment. From headline news to social posts, insider insights to industry observations, join yours truly and Seth Odell as we share top stories from across the world of higher education. Each bite-sized 15-minute episode is packed with personality and designed to bring what's top of mind to the top of your feed. You can subscribe to the show by visiting podcast.enrollify.org or just search Higher Ed Pulse wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Talking Tactics, a podcast that gets you results. Each episode features a single tactic, implemented with limited resources, that moved the needle in enrollment in some way. I'm your host, Day Kibbles, Strategy Director at Ology, a marketing and branding agency for education. Join me every other week for discussions with some of the most clever folks in admissions and enrollment marketing, doing the work day to day, just like you. Talking Tactics is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites, linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Check them out at element451.com. Hello, dearest listeners. Welcome to Talking Tactics. My guest today is Sarah Goldfarb, and she's here to share how she's helped 5 schools, at least, generate more content and double their social media engagement through unique student ambassador programs. If you're listening and you've always wondered how to set up highly efficient and effective ambassador programs, this is the perfect episode for you. Sarah is currently Managing Director of Social Media and Digital at R.W. Jones Agency. In this role, she collaborates with colleges and universities of all sizes, focusing primarily on social, web, digital, and of course, my beloved email, which I will always shout out as the email fan that I am. Before her work at R.W. Jones, she championed this work at a campus herself, and folks, her tactic works. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
I'm very excited to be talking about social media ambassadors today.
Yes. I mean, this is one of those topics that everybody knows they need to do and they need to do well, but very few people know where to start. So I'm excited you're going to show them your ways.
Yeah, I agree. I've talked to so many schools where they said, we've tried this and it just didn't work. Well, I've got some new tactics here to make sure it does work.
Oh, this is the stuff that gets me excited. So let's talk about how this starts, right? So how do schools know that they need to do something like this? What's their situation typically? What are some of the problems that schools face with their student ambassador programs?
In general, I don't think there's a school out there that really couldn't utilize social media ambassadors in some way, but to pinpoint it, the schools that I think could benefit the most and see the best ROI there are some of the smaller institutions that I've worked with that don't always have large staffs. They don't have content at their fingertips. And something that surprised me a little bit coming from a larger institution was where we had a lot of user-generated content happening, Instagram and TikTok. We were tagged in Instagram stories almost daily of students just going about their days. But some of the smaller institutions, whether that means, there's just a smaller student body or some of them may have had issues in the past where people weren't as likely to be tagging their institutions and sharing all this user-generated content. This is a way to kind of, prime that pump a little bit and get students tagging and using content. So I would say some of the smaller institutions, this is really helpful.
This is a great tactic then for those of you listening who might be in a school where this is good. Prospective students want to hear from other students, but you're like, oh, it's not happening organically. So what do they do? What's the idea here? What's the main idea?
Yeah. And, I generally call this a social media ambassador program because I feel like that is all encompassing of really how you see the program best fit your needs and your audiences at your school. But in general, it's finding and leveraging students who are there. And of course, this could go into alums and certainly other groups of people, but focusing on students first, giving that true, authentic perspective that you don't always get on some of these channels, and really creating this cohort of a handful of students that you think would be great for representing your institution. They have some spirit, they have, diversified interests and demographics and other needs, and getting them together and helping guide them create content on your behalf, but on their channels.
Okay. So I think when, one of the things that I've struggled with personally when I haven't tried to set up a student ambassador program myself, but like when I am trying to find like these students that would be great, how do you actually do this? Like, what are the steps to find the right students? How do you set them up? How do you train them? Can you walk us through like the step-by-step of how you actually make this work?
Yes. And we've done this a few different ways. You can, if it's a smaller institution and there's a lot of people on staff in the marketing and communications office or the student life or admissions offices that know students, sometimes it's personal outreach. I think you would be great for this program, and you do some personal outreach. If you need a larger group of students to pull from, you can put an open call out for social media ambassadors. Of course, we need to outline the program and the requirements. You want to find students who are in good academic standing and, no student conduct issues. But beyond that, most students nowadays are social media digital natives. We're not really worried about, they know how to use the tools. One unique thing that I think the success here is, it's good to have your own accounts as a student, but a lot of them are private. A lot of them don't want to post like super like what maybe they would consider like cringe content about their institution on their personal account. So I think my like secret, sauce here is they actually get institution accounts that are their name. So usually it's either the mascot or the name of the college and their handle and then their name. So Wagner Maya or, Whittier Rowe, and they kind of get to create their own personality on these channels.
Okay, so I do think this is the secret sauce, because just looking at like my nieces and nephews' Instagrams, like their college going age, they have no posts. They have 0 posts. And I imagine the last thing they would do is like start posting student ambassador like that would be mortifying for them, right? So the other thing too, like I've noticed recently is like TikTok and even Instagram, they're like, create a different account to reach a different audience. Like they want you to have multiple accounts. So that is such an interesting way to do it because you free them from the cringe. Have you noticed that? Like they're much more free to post?
They're so much more free to post, and they kind of embrace this, like alter ego
persona
situation.
Yeah.
But it is authentic. Like it's just stuff that's like inside them that they want to come out, and we found the platform for them. So they do like follow me along on my, my walk to class or, get ready with me edition, or they'll interview a professor sometimes, which again, they would never do on their personal accounts. So it's funny how it changes all of a sudden. And then people lean into it. They're friends. They're all okay with them being cheesy, and they like to go on the platforms with them. They're friends. And sometimes they'll share it from their personal account, which I think is fine. But I agree. You're not seeing nearly as many posts from Gen Z in the way that I traditionally post on my Instagram feed or brands do. So they'll keep it in story or they'll post in archive. So this way it's just their public platform related to their college. And a lot of them keep it up afterward. They'll share it with future employers, or it's kind of, like a scrapbook or
it's a portfolio almost. Yeah, of their content creation. Oh, that's so smart. One of the, I think, myths I want to ask you about is when you're finding some of these ambassadors, a lot of people look to see that they're very popular already on Instagram or TikTok or whatever the platform is. But when we're dealing with students who are not posting very much, you can't see the engagement of their platforms. So how much does that matter, I guess? How much does it matter that they already have built a platform when you're trying to find them?
Great question. I think it's really dependent, because they're starting their own platform. I don't normally care if they're prolific posters on their other platforms. I do typically ask for them to show us their other platforms or make them public for, a few days while we look around, just to make sure there's not unsavory things where they're bashing the college all the time or something like that. We just want to make sure. But in general, that's not a huge indicator for us. We're just looking for someone who can be creative and post content and has a community around the college to get some of that following. Because the one downside of creating your own account is you are starting from 0 followers. And, followers isn't a huge KPI here for us, but we do want them to build up a community and a little bit of a personality.
Right. Okay. So that, for especially as you said earlier, for folks in these smaller campuses, you don't need to find the influencer with 1 million followers to build a student ambassador program.
That would be another project with getting a mega influencer to help you, but that's not the point of this.
That's not this. So what guidelines do you give them then? Like, do they need to post a minimum of 2 times a week? And is there do you give them topics to post about, or how much freedom do they have?
Yeah. So I find the most important part here, and of course there's guidelines, it's a program, and maybe later we'll talk about some compensation. So there are requirements here, but to be honest, it's more of creating this like close-knit community so they know they can come to us with their ideas and talk to each other. So we end up having requirements. It depends on the needs, but it's usually like 2 to 3 posts a week, maybe 1 reel a week if possible, doing some Instagram stories where they're tagging us, collaborating. We'll say 1 collaboration a month because we love the Instagram collaboration feature for this because they post it and it goes on the college account at the same time. So we do have requirements. Again, we don't say, you need to get 2,000 followers, but we'll have content requirements. But for me, it's creating that community, and then you can see their content really grow, because then we'll give them inspiration. Be like, look at this really cool campus tour another student did at another institution. Wouldn't you like to do something like that? Or, hey, it's National Donut Day. If you're getting a donut anyway, we would love for you to do a post about National Donut Day as well and feature one of your eateries on campus. So usually we have a group message going in some platform, whether that's right in Instagram or on iMessage or wherever they feel more comfortable talking to us as the program organizers. That to me is like key here of getting them to engage more. And then they do have some requirements around posting, but it's nothing that has been difficult to achieve.
Okay. So you mentioned compensation. What does that look like for them? So if you're requiring things of them, they should be compensated for that. So what does that look like typically?
Yeah, when I was in college, you could get away with not paying interns or, content creators. But in this case, where, it's 2024, these people are making legitimate content for your institution on your behalf, and they deserve to be compensated. I am in full agreement on that. I think the one hurdle here is that some of these smaller institutions, we all know budgets are being cut, will use student workers, will use an intern budget, because this is, for all intents and purposes, could be like an internship.
Exactly.
At larger institutions, if there's lots of sporting events and concerts, you can comp them tickets. And then that's, to me, is like a 2-for-1, because they get a cool seat and they're covering it. And that's something you can share on your channel.
Oh,
so
that's smart. Yeah.
I'm all about giving them these cool opportunities if you don't have a large budget. And swag. They always love getting like high quality sweatshirts and other merch from your institution to showcase on their channels, but also as compensation. So depending on your rules at your institution, I know it's different everywhere. You can get creative. I love giving out, like, you did a great reel this week. Here's $10 to Starbucks. Or, we've gotten creative where they really do feel compensated. But number one, hopefully you have some student intern budget, or, make a push for this new program and explain how much money this would cost if you were doing all this content on your own.
Yeah, exactly. I there's always ways. And like one of the things I always think about for this type of program, especially today, is why isn't this a certificate program? Right? Like imagine if students actually could enroll in this, right? Like there might be like some training that goes with it, but then they can graduate, like you said, like they're sharing their accounts with potential employers. Why can't you have a content creator certificate that goes along with it that is also in some way not monetary compensation, but like they're gaining a whole credential that is so relevant today, right?
As you're saying that, I'm thinking that's a way to ensure that they hit these requirements. Because sometimes students get really busy, and I feel horrible midterms making them get their a week requirement that we give out. So if it's a certificate or a program more structured like that, I think you'll have more steady content flowing.
Hey there, it's Mallory, Chief Strategist of Enrollify. Higher ed is facing a leadership crisis. The demands on today's college and university leaders are skyrocketing, and talent is leaving the industry at an unprecedented rate. New leaders like you are emerging, but no one is getting the proper training to be successful. Well, Enrollify is here to change that. Our new course, Lessons in Leadership, taught by Dr. Carrie Phillips, will prepare you to be a confident, empathetic, and effective leader. From systems thinking to adaptive leadership, building culture to handling difficult decisions, this comprehensive online course is perfect for new and aspiring leaders. Don't wait. The course starts September 9th, and for a lucky group of 26 students, we have the option to add interactive sessions with Dr. Phillips for personalized guidance. Visit Enrollify.org to learn more.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe you don't use all of it, but they're gaining like really important skills with it too that they for sure are going to use and they want to use. And I've always wondered, like, why isn't this connected to the academic side of the house? Like
That's something to explore for sure.
Listeners, somebody do it. Somebody do it out there. All right. So far things are sounding pretty smooth. Like we're figuring it out. It's happening. Have you ever encountered any challenges in trying to set up these programs at some of the schools you've worked with?
Oh, that's a good question. Of course. I mean, you're working with students who are busy. We've all seen what students do nowadays impact their schedules. They have, they're in a sorority. They're part of the marketing club, and now they're doing social media ambassadors. So, and they want to get, dean's list. So we run into sometimes some really good momentum early on. And then you can always tell when it's a like midterm week or finals or something stressful happening because we're not seeing the content, there's the same cadence that we've had before. So I'd say that's the biggest hurdle. And that's why, as I mentioned before, just having that community where you can just pop in and be like, is everything okay, is really important here. And another hurdle is probably just getting a good mix of students. I would say that for instance, it's really hard to find male students sometimes that want to do this. Just digging deep and knowing where to go to the certain teach professors that might know a certain student that you really need to diversify this program, I think is really important.
So, I mean, what you're alluding to is something that every guest that I've talked to that works in social, they just say over and over again, like, you have to know your community. You have to have the connections to different parts of the institution to be able to ask these questions or to know who the pockets of students are or to go and ask, right? That's such an important part of the role.
Yeah, it is.
So have you, I'm curious, like in the challenges part here, like have you ever encountered a situation in which you had to pull content or like quality control type situation where you're like, thanks for this, but there's no way we're posting this? Or do you just let them post? Yeah.
I love that you asked this because this is like the number one fear when
Yes.
I go like pitch this to, a vice president of marketing communications or, somebody, the president of the institution or something. This is their first thing. Well, are they going to be posting photos of them partying on Friday night? Or what if they had a really bad meal in the dining hall and they want to post about their raw chicken? I mean, everyone's had a raw chicken story on
everyone
campus, right?
Everyone has had a raw chicken story.
So my first answer is these are very savvy students. I can promise you they understand the difference between their personal account and their institution account because they just get it. I mean, this is their life. They understand what they're doing here, and they do typically they sign a contract. It's, this is an institution account. We need your password just in case. And do not post, we usually list a few things of, like no drugs and alcohol or things like that. So we have that in place. I would say like the worst I've gotten to having somebody remove something is somebody was studying abroad, which, by the way, amazing content, and social media ambassador studying abroad is the best way to showcase your institution's offerings there. But they were in a winery and in Italy on a vineyard or something.
Oh,
and
man.
They were posting, right? Like they were posting all these photos of them with a wine bottle, which, it's fine. You're studying abroad, but that is not something we would necessarily want on an institutional account. So I messaged them immediately. They were like, oh gosh, I'm so silly. And they took it down. And I don't think anyone even saw it because I was watching it and I saw it at the moment. But so, they're always accommodating to listening to you, especially because of that community I built that I keep preaching about. I think they are, and sometimes they'll post stuff that wouldn't arise to the institutional level account, and that's not the point. I don't need to post every single thing to the institutional level account. So if they're posting an early morning workout in the gym and it just doesn't go with what I have on my calendar today, then I just let it live on their channels and we keep going.
Yeah. Well, like one of the things I always say to folks, I've never overseen a student ambassador like social program directly, but I have worked with campus tour guides, right? And you think you train them, and you do. We train them so well. They learn so many things about the institution, but then you unleash them with families and zero supervision, and what you don't know what they're saying actually, where with social, exactly what they're saying and you have the opportunity to take it back or take it down. So if we can trust campus tour guides with absolutely no monitoring, why not social media ambassadors where we can see exactly what they're doing, right? That's always my counter argument to that.
I like that. I didn't think of it like that, but I will say as an aside, oftentimes the tour guides do make good social media ambassadors as well because they've been trained already.
They've been so trained. Exactly. But if we trust them where we can't listen, we should definitely be able to trust them where we can listen.
Yes.
All right. So let's get to the part everybody's waiting for. Talk to us about results. And if you can share some specifics of the schools you've worked with, I think that will get folks excited.
Yeah. And, as I've mentioned, I've worked in multiple schools and they have different results depending on what was already existing on their channels. But a few that I was excited to collaborate with, they were only posting to their Instagram 1 or 2 times a week because that's all they could handle with their workload and the content coming in. So for those specific channels, we've upped the content posting. We've doubled, tripled it many times because now they have 5 to 7 posts a week. If you fold in some of the content creators, the social media ambassador content. But the metrics that excite me the most are this uptick in engagement because the students' content is very engaging. They're making reels. Some of these platforms had 0 videos per week, and because they weren't able to make reels, they don't have a video staff, they don't have a social media content creator full-time making reels. So they went from basically 0 videos a week, which is a problem with the algorithms.
It is.
You need that
video.
vertical video.
Yeah.
You need those reels, those TikToks, whatever, you're working on. And this is how you get these from the students. So, now some of them have like an average of 70,000 views a week because, we've all seen reels tank or explode. And this is the same with social media ambassadors. But one institution I'm working with right now, every time we post a social media ambassador reel, it gets about 15,000 views, on average. And this is when they had none before that. So.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely helps with all the other content they want to showcase because now their algorithm is paying attention, right? So That's wonderful. Have you heard of any anecdotal kind of successes from all the schools that you've been working with too?
I have. Some of the programs are a little on the newer side, but one great thing is if you have a close relationship with your admissions office, you can offer some of these students up as connection points. If a prospective student wants to really talk to a student, why not give them this Instagram handle right there? They can talk on the platform they're already talking with their friends on. And we've heard some anecdotal evidence of that working out because they're having a relationship where they're asking them like, what are class sizes like? And the ambassador is just answering right there. So we've seen some really good engagement there and in private messages that we can offer up as a reason that a student applied. Another example is when the students start their social media ambassador accounts and they want some followers, they often will reach out to friends that they've had back home. And some of them might be a year or two younger. And we've heard some examples of, I started following Evan, the social media ambassador, and I was a junior in high school. He went to my high school, and now I've decided I at least need to go visit this school because I saw all the cool content he was posting.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't even think of that as a possibility. That's awesome. Any final advice to anyone who wants to try this at their institution?
I would say that it's worth the effort. A lot of people come to me with, this seems like a lot to really set up and find these students and, guide them. Like some of them need a lot of guiding throughout the semester, but it's worth the upfront effort because it pays in dividends in the end when they're making this authentic content for you on your channels. And everybody needs that piece nowadays on their Instagram channel. So I would say it's worth the work in the beginning and it feels natural and it turns into some really long-lasting relationships.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing this expertise with us. I think everything you shared today is such a great solve for the content creation overwhelm that so many teams feel. So I think our listeners are really going to benefit from this. If people want to reach out to you and contact you and ask more questions, where can they find you?
They can find me in my email, sarah@rwjonesagency.com, LinkedIn, I'm there under Sarah Goldfarb. Instagram, why not? I'm talking about Instagram nearly this whole podcast. I need to give my Instagram out. I will say it's a lot of like kids and cocktails and the occasional higher ed thing, but I would love to talk to you there, SB Gold. Day, is there a way that we can just share some links of some of the student social media ambassador content that they've created? Okay.
Yes, we'll put that in the show notes for folks. So your favorite example, Sarah, we'll just go right into the show notes in the episode description for people to see.
Great.
All right. Well, that's the end of our episode today, listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, you don't have to find the biggest influencers with 1 million followers. You have to build relationships across campus, give them their own accounts so they are not embarrassed to talk about their school, and then let them do their thing and see your content double, triple, and the engagement follow suit. Be sure to follow or subscribe to keep walking the walk and talking the tactics.
The Talking Tactics podcast is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month,
and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions pros find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts, like Jamie Hunt, Allison Tercio, Jenny Lee Fowler, Jeremy Tiers, and so many of your other favorite leaders in higher ed too. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Check them out at element451.com.